1, go. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back. My name is Caster Sata, and today I am joined once again by Souldra, and we're going to be getting into game number 2 between LGD Gaming and Edward Gaming. LGD took a very convincing win after securing themselves Baron, and a very solid team fight when sieging Edward Gaming. Let's see if Edward Gaming will be able to return the favor with a game 2.
Honestly, there was a fight in EDG's jungle, which LGD won, and that very fight in which a lot of ultimates on the side of EDG were burned to escape, and I believe Clearlove died in that fight. Essentially allowed LGD to get a free Baron. But if you looked at the entirety of the game, LGD was firmly in control from start to finish of that first game between these two teams.
And I think that has to do a little bit with their early picks, with both PYL and Styes getting very powerful duo lane champions on Ezreal and Thresh. They were able to shut down Name despite not engaging in that level 1 engage. They both went for a quick lane swap, and now, curious to seeing LGD ban away Thresh, it's a bit curious to see what they have in mind.
Right. This means that LGD is going to first pick a high priority champion, and that since they're going to first pick a high priority champion, possibly that Shyvana, they do not want FCZF, a very prominent Thresh player in China, to get his hands on that champion. Ziggs would be a very good first pick, especially since it worked so well for Reyna in that mid lane last game.
And you're exactly right with Coral hovering over that Shyvana. That's going to secure that away from Star, who did take Mundo in game number 1. But taking a look at Edward Gaming's bans, that's a lot of the jungles being taken away from Quan. He was very effective on Lee Sin in the first game, but now hovering over Kha'Zix, it's a little bit of a change of pace.
Yes, Sata, and as you remember, Lucian was actually banned from Name for LGD last game, so to see Name get that Lucian should be really positive. Should be really encouraging for all those EDG fans out there. Sorry, the Kha'Zix pick from Quan would almost be a direct counter pick to Clearlove, and it would force him for the first time to split to pick something outside of the bug, and so it'll be really interesting to see which jungler EDG decides to go with here. The Mundo is fairly standard.
Name giving us a little bit of a Yordle troll by hovering over Heimerdinger in that bottom lane.
It might not be a troll pick. We all know the strength of the Donger.
Especially with the new visual upgrade coming out very soon. I expect to see a lot more Heimerdinger on EU and NA servers, and even on the Chinese servers. Now this is a bit interesting. Name hovering over Evelyn and even locking it in. Clearlove going for yet another assassin.
I mean, Clearlove does love playing those assassins. As I said before, during the pick and ban phase of the last game, Kha'Zix Evelyn really meant to get yourself ahead of the other team and try to steamroll and try to basically create another threat on your team and allow Name just to kite and hit tanks from the back line. Jinx would be a really interesting pick, but it probably will be the Vayne.
There was a little bit of an interview earlier today with the Odd One, where he was talking about the strength of Evelyn in the jungle and how he expects to see a resurgence of Evelyn. When she did get her rework, most players decided to build her with ability power, one major ability power item, either a Haunting Guise into Liandry's and then get tanky, or they would go for a solid tank build, and that usually doesn't work out too well. What the Odd One predicts, though, is going to be an AD item on Evelyn, such as a Bloodthirster or a Last Whisper, and then start to get tanky.
Yeah, we all saw Diamond Prox in his game with Evelyn build a Blade of the Rune King on that jungler, which allowed him really to stick to the backline of the AD carries. This is a really interesting pick from LGD, the Zyra pick specifically, and I don't necessarily agree with it, especially since EDG has a lot of mobility in their team composition, because when Annie initiates, she usually does so with a Flash Tibber stun. Evelyn is stealthed until she reaches the backline to use her haste spikes and her ultimate to basically assault champions like Vayne and Ziggs. and Koro Shyvana it's basically a huge gap closer with that Dragon's Descent all the way towards the AD carry and AP carry for LGD. So it'll be really interesting to see how PYL's Zyra kites with that champion, and whether she'll be able to land a really good ultimate and peel for her AD carry in Styles.
In game number 1, we talked a bit about how LGD had more of a mid-game composition, with Ezreal taking a quick Trinity Force into Infinity Edge. That's for pure damage scaling. And Ziggs, of course, once he finishes his Athene's on Holy Grail, and then either a Rabadon's or Void Staff, he scales very well in the mid-game. This time, though, LGD looking like they want to go for a late-game team composition. With a Vayne and a Zyra, they're not going to be able to team fight until Vayne completes either her Blade of the Ruined King Phantom Dancer or her Bloodthirster Static Shiv, depending on what LGD has in mind.
Yes, and that's not even mentioning the Mundo on the side of LGD. I mean, LGD has a bunch of late game champions that are really, unfortunately, really susceptible to early game ganks, and we all know how good Shyvana and Elise, when they dive a top lane, how good they are at distributing turret damage and coming up with that first blood early in the game. I'm really interested to see on Kha'Zix, the jungler for LGD, his item pathing as well as his jungle pathing, because we need to see where he puts his priorities, because I believe that, you know, whatever LGD does, one of the members of the side lanes, either Stars Mundo or Styles and PYL's Vayne and Zyra, is going to die very early.
So I do expect a lot of aggression as well. Of course, Evelynn yes, she is stealth. Wow, holy lisp, Batman. That was absolutely fantastic. She is stealth, so she can get right on top of any target that she really wants. But again, Clearlove looking like he's going to be throwing us for a loop, and this could be the beginning of the Evelynn resurgence that the Odd One was talking about. But this time, we're not going to see Edward Gaming go for any sort of, LGD go for any funky level 1 invades. They're just going to take it nice and safe with a standard defensive line that is matched by Edward Gaming.
You know, we got a little dance-off here, a little taunt-off between Name and Styes. Standard level 1 fan, nothing really interesting. I don't expect to see any late invades considering how spread out every member of EDG, both the Edward Gaming and LGD squads are. We see Vayne going up to this top lane. It might have been a little bit brash for Name to show himself to Styes that early, especially since in a Lucian versus Vayne matchup, Lucian and Annie do relatively beat Styes' Vayne and PYL's Zyra. So we do see Styes going up to that top lane to lane versus Koro Shyvana. But like I said again, EDG might have been wiser for EDG not to show their plans that early into the game.
And this is the second time in a row that LGD is backing away from that 2v2 matchup against Name and FZZF. Styes waiting in that top lane, going to be zoning out Koro for a very, very long time on Vayne. He's not even going to have to worry about trading with that very scary Lucian-Annie combo. We didn't get a chance to talk about it during Champion Select, and it looks like we're not going to get a chance to talk about it over the course of the game until we see both of these two teams try to shove those Tier 1 turrets once again.
You know, the really interesting thing is that one of the reasons why Zyra fell out of favor after her nerfs was because her 2v2 laning phase was so bad, especially since there were just other supports that did her job much better than she did. But but in 2v1s, that shouldn't really be that much of a problem, especially since Zyra has such a long poke and a stun in the form of a grasping roots. So I mean, this is a pretty advantageous position for LGD to be in. Of course, we saw in both the NA and EU LCS, and even in the World Championships, Ashe Zyra becoming a really popular lane, especially for those 2v1 matchups.
And yeah, the Zyra is rather weak in the early game. If she gets caught in just a little bit of CC, she can be exploded into tiny little plant bits, which is not very beneficial for her team.
She does get that last passive attack, though.
Yes, she does. So she's got that going for her. Unfortunately, that is going to be about it. Interestingly enough, though, Koro won is setting himself rather far behind. As we just saw, he was only at 2 farm, now at 3 farm. And with Quan going for a gank in the mid lane, looks like he wants to try to get some early pressure onto you. A good flash, satchel charge knocks him back, and Quan secures first blood of the game. It is not after, after the 4-minute mark, so I don't think it is going to be the full 400 gold, but that does secure an early advantage for LGD. And with Koro so very far behind on Shyvana, this could spell doom for Edward Gaming.
Honestly, that was a really fantastic display of synergy right there between Quan and Reyna. You know, I actually really want to see another replay of that kill, because Reyna uses Satchel Charge beautifully to help Quan get into position to kill you, and then Quan did flash on his Kazakhs to eventually secure that kill. But really, I mean, especially since Lulu is such a strong early game champion, and you have to fear Ziggs as he gets stronger and stronger later into the game, this is not a good position for EDG to be in.
Mm-hmm. And with game number 1 going to LGD, Edward Gaming know that the pace is securely in LGD's favor. Styes currently at 27 farm, matched almost exactly by Name at 28, as they are just farming blow for blow. Koro finally getting a little bit caught up in farm to Lai, but Lai taking a bit of harass, forced to burn his teleport to get back in lane. That does mean that there aren't going to be any rotations out of Mundo for a solid 4 or 5 minutes.
Right, but like I said before, I mean, all LGD really needs to do, and we're seeing a fight up here, all LGD really wants to do is try to have Zyra, Vayne, Mundo, Ziggs, and have their entire team basically scale into the late game. So Star knows that his bottom lane, well, now his top lane, is ahead, and therefore does not really need to go visit that lane for a gank. Therefore, he has absolutely no problems burning his teleport in order to get back to lane and keep his farm relatively equal to Shyvana, to Koro's Shyvana.
Clear Love looking like he might want to back away with Koro, as Quan was just waiting to go for a quick gank. With Clear Love forced to defend the top lane with Koro, that means Clear Love is going to be falling a little bit behind Quan in farm. We can't see. They are even for now, both with a Spirit Stone, but the early boots does mean that he is going to have an advantage. Clear Love taking a bit of trade from the Condemned. No continued diving from Styes. And you were exactly right when you mentioned that LGD, they don't want to force fights for the time being. They want to take an early advantage by putting on some very quick pressure and slowly choke it into the late game, where Styes on Vayne scales exceptionally well.
Really good job by Quan here, just to zone out both Koro and Clear Love on the side of EDG. Honestly, that's a good move from the jungler and top laner of EDG, because if they had stayed there, especially with how low Evelyn was getting, Clear Love's Evelyn was getting, they probably most likely would have died. I mean, PYL's Zyra is just so good, especially since she has such a long-range stun, and she has her plants to tank the turret shots. She's so good at diving turrets, given that her AD carry and jungler can provide the damage output necessary to kill the opposing top laner and jungler, and we all know how much damage that a Vayne and a Kazakhs in combination can do.
And this is a bit of an interesting play out of Edward Gaming. They are rotating down to the Dragon. Clear Love walking around just a bit to try to catch Quan, and I liked the attempt to bait out Dragon and just try to force a fight, as Edward Gaming is 1,000 gold behind. Of course, they are even in turrets, and the only kill that went to LGD was First Blood, so that should only be a 500 gold discrepancy, but already we can see LGD starting to snowball the game, and with Edward Gaming backing away, this could be Dragon for LGD.
I mean, Sata, honestly, we saw this last game too. There was a point within the game where the majority of EDG's players were all hiding in one brush, trying to get a pick off of one of the members of LGD, but it just didn't work. LGD right now is just, their warding is so much more superior to EDG's that they're able to predict where the members of EDG are, and then when the members of Edward Gaming eventually peel off, like you saw right there, LGD can just go in and take a free dragon.
The response from Edward Gaming was not quite in sync, as they did let that dragon fall. It's now 1,500 gold, 1,500 gold in favor of LGD, and they're slowly starting to get that stranglehold over Edward Gaming that we saw in game number 1. 1,500
gold at exactly 8.5 minutes that's an absurd amount, to be completely honest, especially since LGD's composition is so much more powerful in the late game. Right now, we should see Quan backing here, but with all the lanes fairly evened out, this game is completely going in LGD's favor.
Styes got to be careful. FZZF not going to land the stun. Just backs Styes away. Finally, PYL joining up with his AD carry. And this is going to be Styes building a Bilgewater Cutlass. That means he's going for Blade of the Ruined King. He's not going to do a lot of damage until he finishes that Blade of the Ruined King and Phantom Dancer. But again, that's not LGD's focus. They're not focused on they're not trying to do quick damage with a Bloodthirster or Infinity Edge. They're content sitting back, waiting for Vayne to get nice and scary, for Rina to finish off that Athene's Unholy Grail and Rabadon's Death Cap.
I mean, this is in this little bot lane these little bot lane skirmishes between EDG and LGD, you could see why when Styes and Name had that little taunt off during in their first minutes of the game, Styes immediately pressed the recall button and went to go. Actually, we have another duel right here. Oh my goodness!
Trading an enormous amount of damage from the Agony's Embrace brings Clearlove to the death. Quan to the death. Culling being used onto PYL. Edward Gaming turning up the heat as they want to bring some pressure onto LGD. Without a jungle, this does mean that Name and FZZF can shove this lane until their heart's content. As we just mentioned, Styes cannot trade very well with the completed BF sword from Name. Stun catches PYL. He goes down. EGDU picks up a kill.
Right, and I mean, this is what I was saying before. Just Name and FCZF, just given their champion choices at this point in the game, really stomped Styes, Vayne, and PYL Zyra. This is one of the reasons, as I was saying before, all the action that just occurred started. Styes and PYL went to seek a top lane. They went to seek a lane switch with Star's Mundo.
Whoa, Mega Inferno Bomb gets dropped. Here comes Star, trying to get the engage. He is immediately stunned by FZZ, throws the cleaver, catches Name. Name going to fall to Styes. A good flash from FZZF dodges the attack from Quan, but now LGD look like they might want to respond by taking this bottom tier 1 turret, and it looks like they're just going to back off instead and farm out the wave.
Sata, I can't emphasize how... I mean, this just repeatedly happens to EDG too, and you would think that they would learn after 1 or 2 times, but I can't emphasize how important it is to have proper ward coverage around the enemy's jungle if you're pushing that hard into the second-tier turret of the enemy team. EDG had literally zero idea that both Star and Quan would show up into the bottom lane and just completely wipe the floor with them. What Koro should have done, Koro seemed to be freezing the lane right there. What Koro should have done is, they should have sent Clearlove and Koro to take the top turret and really force Name and FCCF to back off, and we might see
bit of a dive. Dragon's Rage being used. Star getting dangerously low. Clearlove going to secure the kill despite the sadism out of Mundo, and unfortunately it is not enough self-hatred to keep himself alive, as EDG look like they're also going to be taking the turret off of this. And you were exactly right talking about the ward control for EDG. They do only have one offensive ward in the jungle for LGD, and now that we finally see them picking up defensive wards, but that bottom tier 1 turret has already fallen, so it's too little too late, as LGD look like they want to take this mid tier 1 turret.
Yeah, this situation is slightly disastrous, as, I mean, around 12 to 15 minutes of the game, we are going to inevitably see both LGD and EDG. I mean, yeah. So Star's teleport on Mundo is not quite up yet. So we're going to see soon. We're soon going to see. Five-man groups up in this mid lane, and it's just obvious that right now LGD's comms completely outclasses what EDG has on their side.
It is even in gold, 18,000 to 18,000, even in turrets. Only 1 kill in Edward Gaming's favor. But this could very well be the beginning of the end for Edward Gaming, as LGD has a completed Blade of the Ruined King on Styes, completed Spirit of the Elder Lizard now on Quan, and Star getting closer and closer to his Spirit Visage, which is going to allow him to go toe-to-toe with Koro for longer periods of time.
One of the important things... I mean, yeah, there's nothing really for me to say about this game besides the fact that, one, LGD has superior ward coverage on the map, and 2, they have superior wave clear as well. So it's basically up to LGD to completely dictate the pace of this game, ask their members to group up in the mid lane and start sieging turrets.
And with Name getting closer and closer to finishing off his Bloodthirster, he does have a bit of a damage spike window where he can favorably trade with Styes, but Dragon looks like it has respawned, and we could see a team fight. Teleport isn't available on Star, so he has to be right up front in the front lines, as we can see right now. Edward Gaming grouping up in the mid lane. Looks like they want to force this fight.
I mean, honestly, given how Chinese teams play, both teams want to force this fight, force the fight at this point. It really depends. So yeah, LGD is already bringing out the Dragon. It really depends on how the team composition from EDG dives the backline and whether they're going to allow Styles to play. But here we see the fight.
Here comes Clearlove throwing down the Agony's Embrace, Stranglethorn locking him down. Korra getting a good Dragon's Descent from behind. Blade of the Ruined King slowing down any sort of chase. Star gets locked down for long enough to allow you to pick up the kill. No one has died for Edward Gaming, and with the Dragon going to LGD, I am going to say that that was a fairly even trade. We can see it is only about a 500 gold lead for LGD, but they are going to lose their tier 1 mid turret off of this.
One of the reasons why the fight went so badly for LGD was because PYL on his, I believe the ultimate is called Strangling Thorns, on his Strangling Thorns ultimate with Zyra, only hit one person, Clearlove, during his spell rotation. So honestly, since there was no peel for Styes and there was no peel for Reyna, the team fight just went downhill. Another reason is that, you know, at this point in the game, Star is not very strong on his Mundo, and the players from EDG knew that, so they were able just to confidently bum rush every single member of LGD and take control of that fight.
And that was very close trade between LGD and EDG, but of course, not having that finished Phantom Dancer on Vayne means that she doesn't have quite the mobility that she really needs in an extended team fight to trade favorably with Lucian with the components for his Bloodthirster. And as we saw, Edward Gaming, they're not out of this just yet. They actually have about a 600 gold lead off of that middle tier 1 turret. So this is a very even game and could certainly swing either way.
Yeah, the only thing about, I mean, this game is completely even. It's really up to EDG to, I mean, I keep stressing this, but they really have to put down more wards and try to find, you know, picks off the map, but they just can't seem to do that at this point of the game. Really, I mean, LGD will have the advantage in team fights until EDG proves that they can get a good angle for Clearlove and Korra 1 to dive the AD carry on the opposing team.
You taking just a little bit of trade from Reyna, and you're exactly right. EDG is not getting a lot of picks, and with an assassin with Clearlove on an assassin, that's something that they really have to rely on unless they wait it out for team fights. And that's something that LGD wants with their composition on Kha'Zix and Vayne. They really want to get those nice solid 5v5 messy fights where they can pick people apart. I think EDG won't benefit from those as much as LGD would.
Right. Yo, Sata, can we pause the game for a second?
Sure.
Thanks. Yo, I think I'm really sorry about this, but I actually think I have to go, like, really quickly.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry about this. I'll talk to you a little bit later, okay?
All right, no problem.
All right, I'll see you later, man. Peace.
Toodles. Okay, I guess we're having some technical difficulties. I think I am going to go ahead and finish up this cast on my own because I am still recording, but this is going to be a solo cast from here on out. So, very exciting, completely unexpected, and totally unprepared. But it is a very interesting game so far. LGD currently about dead even with EDG. Game number 1, of course, did go to LGD. Whoa, Koro with his completed Bilgewater Cutlass. Looks like he's trying to burn down Star, forced to flash over the wall and escape from that. This is usually the period in time where you see Shyvanas get very aggressive, as they do have that incredible spike in power with the level 2 Dragon's Descent, giving them a lot of bonus skill. And of course, they have also completed their core items in that Bilgewater Cutlass and a Sunfire Cape. With Koro finishing off his Sunfire Cape first instead of Blade of the Ruined King, he's going to be focused more on tanking for his team. And I think that makes a lot of sense. There aren't a lot of people that can absorb the damage that LGD is going to be putting out later on in the fight. It's about 17, 18 minutes into the game. Vayne, with a finished Blade of the Ruined King, is going to start shredding through the very squishy carries for Edward Gaming. So Koro opting for the Sunfire Cape before Blade of the Ruined King, I think, is a smart pick. On the other hand, Lai has finished his Spirit Visage. He's working towards a Randuin's Omen with that cloth armor. Not going to be going for a Sunfire Cape, which is something you normally see on Mundo as a first sort of buy. But I feel that that's fallen out of style, especially since the Sunfire Cape got changed in the most recent patch. I think it was the 4.1 or the 4.2, where its damage scaling was now based off of level. So instead of doing a solid 40 damage per second in an AoE, it was changed to do, I think it's 25 that scales with level. So it didn't do quite as well with Mundo's Agonies. Whoa, a huge catch on Rina. He gets locked down from a lot of AoE from EDG, and EDG get a solid catch in the mid lane. Now that Rina is actually gone, this is a really big window of opportunity for EDG. There's a ping on Name as he was missing. It looks like EDG want to try to force yet another fight. Smite from Clearlove steals away the blue from Quan, who's not able to secure that. But now that all 5 members of EDG are grouped up, they could try to take something off of this, but instead they realize that they didn't have Name in position. Name was split, so they can't capitalize as much as they would like, and that's actually rather good for LGD, as LGD looking like they're starting to fall a little bit behind. It's about 1,500 gold in favor of Edward Gaming, and I'm gonna have to say the item advantage, it could go either way. We have an Athene's Unholy Grail on both of the AP carries on Yu's Lulu and Rina Ziggs, but a needlessly large rod finished onto Rina Ziggs, whereas we only have a blasting rod on Yu's Lulu, so that isn't as much damage. And of course, Lulu doesn't contribute quite as much damage in team fights. She provides a lot of utility with her help picks, her whimsy locking a target down, and health with Wild Overgrowth, but she isn't going to be doing too much, as much damage as Rina on Ziggs. So Rina has to focus on staying alive and not getting caught out like that. That was just a solid play from EDG, and I think if they can replicate it, then that's going to put them in an even better spot, especially now that Baron is about to respawn. It's about, Baron, that's the second time I've done that. Dragon is about to respawn. That's going to put them in a very advantageous spot if a EDG can secure this. Quan does have Evolved Leap and Evolved Claws, so he does do bonus isolated damage, but Clearlove is just going to smite that away. Actually, not even smiting, just securing that with a healthy amount of damage. And it is going to be AP Evelyn. Not going to go for any sort of tank AD funky composition. It is Spirit of the Spectral Wraith and Haunting Guise, which means that she is going to taper off a little bit later on, as she does have a very small health pool. But for the time being, this is really where Clearlove shines as an assassin. And now that we have LGD grouping up in the mid lane, this could be the fight that Clearlove wants. He gets a huge Agony's Embrace, catches all 5 members of LGD. The Stranglethorn forces a disengaged Koro, forced to use Dragon Descent over the wall. Wild Overgrowth with a good knock-up, a good Mega Inferno Bomb, catches Name, but he's going to regenerate the health back. Now Quan turns onto FZZF, secures himself a kill. This is Koro forced to back away Yu, turning in to catch Rina from the side. Rina denies with a satchel charge, so this could be an interesting turn if EDG wants to continue fighting, but it looks like they should back off, especially with Koro completely backing away and Name only with a Bloodthirster to try to keep up with Stai's completed Blade of the Ruined King and Zeal. And Yu now catches PYL out of position. Name comes in from the side with a solid dash, picks up not 1 but 2 kills with a good double kill. Name now turning around to try to catch Rina. Rina out of mana, but does have an Athene's Unholy Grail, is going to be able to flash and escape from this. A solid fight out of Edward Gaming as they look like they try to take this into the late game and secure themselves a revenge win off of LGD. LGD didn't get the team fight that they wanted. I am rather impressed with that engage from Edward Gaming. They were very, very patient with their ultimates, did copious amounts of damage, and Name, staying alive for the duration of that entire team fight, did a really solid job of securing kills and denying the damage from Stai's. Stai's secured only 1 kill by shutting down Clearlove, but at the cost of 4 members of LGD dying. They only were able to get the 1 from Edward Gaming. That was Clearlove dying. Actually, Clearlove didn't even die. I have no idea who died. I think it was Yu who went down on Lulu. So overall, a very favorable engage for Edward Gaming. We can see that they are about, 4,000 gold ahead of LGD. And LGD could be in a bit of trouble now, as Yu and looking like he has completed his Lich Bane, is going to be able to do copious amounts of damage with those attack procs. Of course, Help Picks does scale with the Lich Bane, which is where that attack gets most of its damage, where Lulu gets most of her damage with auto attacks. We can see she can one-shot caster minions, so she doesn't have that much trouble clearing waves anymore. But on the other hand, Rina, with this finished Rabadon's Death Cap, is going to be matching that enormous amount of damage from you. And if Rina can stay alive for as long as he did in the last team fight, he's going to be able to contribute quite a bit to LGD, as he does do enormous amounts of AoE damage with rather short cooldowns. That's something that could really hurt EDG. As we saw in the last team fight, Koro was forced to use his Dragon's Ascent to engage late into the fight. He didn't catch anyone with the knockback and was forced to use it as just a standard dash to get over the wall. And that did allow him to fall rather quickly. He didn't die, but he wasn't able to catch Rina or Styes, and that allowed them to stay alive for a very long time, and it was really just a trade of skill between LGD and EDG, with Edward Gaming coming out on top. And now that Edward Gaming, they're starting to get a little bit more bold with this advantage. Clearlove taking a bit of poke. Star does have both teleport and sadism, so he could try to make a play, throwing out a few cleavers to catch Clearlove and you out of position, but they're just going to soak that damage right up, no problem. Koro looking like he might want to try to dive in. Yes, the Dragon's Ascent goes down, catches PYL. A huge Stranglethorn, tries to keep himself alive, but it is not enough as Wild Overgrowth secures a knockup. Mega Inferno Bomb completely misses, landing only on you, who's just going to back away from that. Lai coming in from behind on Mundo. That Star, the culling being used to try to catch Quan. Quan can leap in any second now. FZZF gets low. This is now Quan being leapt on by Name. That's completely backwards. Quan leaping onto Name, who secures himself a kill. Ignite ticking away onto Star. Star is low. It looks like he might go down. Clearlove doesn't get the hate spike. Star narrowly lives. That's a 1 for 4 in favor of LGD, as they're looking like they're going to turn around that last team fight very, very well. Solid trade. This is the part where I would hand it off to another caster, but I'm afraid that I don't have another caster, so I'm just going to keep on talking. LGD looking like they want to take Baron. Sadism isn't ready on Mundo quite yet, so he has to get Styes in there to regenerate. Finally, that Sadism comes off of cooldown, so we can't absorb it. Name trying to get the Baron steal over the wall, but he is CC locked down. Rina does enormous amounts of damage, and it looks like the Baron goes over to LGD. That is going to even up the gold exactly. Where it was once just a 4,000 gold lead in favor of Edward Gaming, it is now dead even once again. 3-3 in turrets, dead even in gold. But that Baron buff on each of the members of LGD is going to come in handy if they try to force another team fight. Dragon's going to spawn in about 30 seconds, so I'd like to see LGD group up and try to force that away from Edward Gaming and secure themselves into the late game even further. Finally, Styes has completed his Phantom Dancer and his Blade of the Ruined King, so he has officially reached that late game Vayne status that we saw so much in Worlds of Season 3. And that means he's going to do enormous amounts of damage to all of the members of Edward Gaming. If Styes has the control that he needs in team fights, he can really shut Koro and you down. While Koro and you do provide a lot of tankiness and utility, that's really all that Edward Gaming have going for them. Clearlove has to get in nice and deep whenever Edward Gaming engages. So that means that if Styes can just dodge around with good tumbles, keep condemns to keep Clearlove and Koro away from him, that means he and Rina can just do enormous amounts of damage to Edward Gaming. And Name, even though he's playing very well on Lucian, currently at 4, 1, and 3 with a completed Trinity Force and Bloodthirster, I don't think he'll be able to keep up with the damage that Styes is going to start doing. And now that we have LGD grouping up in the mid lane, looks like they might want to try to force a fight at Dragon. No, Dragon was already taken while I was talking. I totally saw that. I saw exactly when that happened, and I know which team took that, and I really hope you guys know that too, because I know what's going on right now. LGD are in a position to siege up this mid turret. Edward Gaming is having a little bit of trouble defending and wave clearing. You on Lulu does do a pretty solid wave clear with picks, but it can't quite keep up with the push out of Rina's Ziggs. Rina, having finished a Void Staff in addition to his Rabadons, is going to just chunk through the health bars of Edward Gaming. And while Wild Overgrowth does provide a lot of health, especially on AP Lulu, it is still not going to be that much. How do you stop an overflowing dam that's about to burst with only a few vines? I don't know. You'll have to bring that up with Lulu. She really should look into doing that a little bit better. But Styes just wave clearing, farming it up in the mid lane as LGD looking like they might want to try to secure this clear. Love coming in from behind. He's going to catch Rina and PYL, and Rina gets absolutely obliterated. A great Stranglethorn knocks up 4 members of Edward Gaming. A flash from Quan allows him to survive, but Styes, Star, and Quan are going to be the only surviving members. Styes now being engaged upon, forced to flash away. Red buff slowing him, locking him down. Yu picks up the kill, and now with Stars backing away from all 5 members of Edward Gaming. His sole purpose is to run distraction, keep Edward Gaming away from the turrets, keep them away from his base while his enemy team respawns. As we saw, he didn't make a beeline for his own base. He ran distraction, was able to buy about 3 or 4 seconds, but it's still another 10 before Rina gets back alive and can use his Mega Inferno Bomb. And now that EDG has this advantage, despite the Baron buff from LGD, they look like they could take this tier 2 turret. Mega Inferno Bomb is going to be flung out any second now, I am certain, and it actually doesn't even look like Rina is going to use it. He's going to let the turret fall and concede that victory. Here's the team fight once again. Clear Love getting a huge amount of burst onto Rina, absolutely obliterates both Rina and PYL. They fall almost instantly. The teleport from Stars comes in along with Styes to try to turn it around, but by that point it is far too late as Styes gets caught in a help picks and falls to Yu, who secures that. Stars just baiting away the rest of Edward Gaming. He did run solid distraction and soaked a healthy amount of damage, but it just wasn't enough. He does have his completed Spirit Visage and Randuin's Omens, but you can't really rely on Mundo staying alive 1v5 without a team to back you up. It's something that we all wish we could do, and Mundo players, I'm certain, wish that they could do specifically that much more, but Stars, he is just not doing too well on Mundo this game. Currently at 1-4-4, 184 farm, 30 minutes into the game, with only 2 completed core items. He can't really trade that well with Name, who has his completed Last Whisper, Trinity Force, and Bloodthirster. So his Sheen procs are going to double tap and shred through the life from Star. And Star just won't be able to keep up. Actually, Star has Baron buff still, so that's a bit interesting. I think that may be a graphical bug. I don't know why he has that, unless that may have just been something falling off. We'll have to keep an eye on him when the camera takes us back. And yeah, he still has Baron buff. So too does Quan. So I think there was a counter Baron from LGD. No, Baron's about to respawn in 2 minutes, so that is just a graphical bug on LGD's side, as they don't actually have the Baron buff anymore. Koro catches Quan out of position. Name coming in from behind to try to see if they can lock Quan down, as Name throws out just a little bit of damage with his piercing bolt. Name going for a bit of a dive, throws that calling out, completely whiffs, just tickles Star a little bit, but Star is going to regenerate that with Sadism, no problem. Quan going to escape from this one, but Edward Gaming looks like they want to turn this game around. Despite losing game number 1 and trading back and forth with LGD, they are setting a solid pace as Name sieges the turret with Koro. Koro waiting on the side now that the rest of Edward Gaming is in position. They could try to go for a dive, but Baron is going to respawn in about a minute. Dragon respawning in a minute too. So Edward Gaming has to decide, do we try to siege mid? Do we siege top? Do we force a fight at Dragon? Force a fight at Baron? It really could go either way. And now that we have Name going for a bit of recall, I'd like to see him pick up a Guardian Angel, but no, instead goes for the Spectre's Cowl. To me, that says that he's going to be picking up a Banshee's Veil to soak the agony to soak some of the burst from LGD. And I think that's a solid pick. Guardian Angel relies on whenever you die, you have to trust that your team is going to be able to turn the fight around in those 2 seconds that you have died. That leaves one of 2 scenarios. One, your team actually does turn it around, and when you respawn, you can turn it and pick up a few kills. Or the opposite scenario, your team isn't able to turn it around, and that Guardian Angel essentially goes to waste as the enemy team just waits on top of your core. Styes getting caught out of position by Edward Gaming's Clear Love once again. Deathfire Grasp absolutely nuking his health. as he is obliterated from the map. Koro comes in from the side with a huge Dragon's Descent, manages to get a decent amount of slow, and now that Yu is over the wall, he's throwing down enough CC to lock down the members of LGD. It does look like Rina and PYL fall. Star is going to escape once again, but with 3 members dead, there's no one to contest this Baron for Edward Gaming, and it looks like they are going to secure themselves a solid advantage. Quan and Star are alive. Quan has his smite available, but I don't think I'd like to see him force a fight at the Baron. I'd like to see him split push with Star, possibly try to shove a turret to distract Edward Gaming once they finish Baron, but instead they're just going to rotate down towards the Dragon and secure themselves a little bit of gold, as it is now an 8,000 gold lead in favor of Edward Gaming 33 minutes into the game. You'll forgive the awkward silence. It's just talking a lot means that I need to drink water so that I can enunciate and speak clearly and not slur my words like a drunk Irishman. No stereotype intended, but it's a casting thing. Whenever you talk a lot and you slur your words, it's just really difficult to continue talking. So you drink water from time to time in order to continue talking, so that you can continue drinking water. And it's a vicious cycle. It's something to do with survival and existing and human body. Why do we use saliva when we talk? I don't know. It's a weird thing. Getting back to the game, LGD is in a bit of a dire situation. That's the second time now that Clearlove has had a good catch on either Rina or Styes. Styes, in the first fight, had enough control to stall it out long enough to deny any sort of major objectives from Edward Gaming, but the second time, Clearlove catching Styes allowed Edward Gaming to secure the Baron buff, and now that they have Baron and a pretty solid gold lead to boot, they could start to take control over the map, as we have Yu and Koro pushing forward to try to take control away from LGD. And I think this is something that's working out rather well. Clearlove finally getting back into the rest of his team. His completed Void Staff, in addition to that Deathfire Grasp, is going to guarantee that whatever target he finds, he can chunk them down. Quan getting engaged upon by Koro as Koro goes deep into the LGD's ranks. He's not able to secure a kill, but forces a lot of ultimates to be burned, which means Edward Gaming can siege this tier 2 turret no problem. The completed Last Whisper from Name chunks that down almost immediately and secures another turret for Edward Gaming, further increasing their map control and denying the counterplay out of LGD. I'd like to see them try to force a fight at an inhibitor while they still have Baron, as they do have enormous amounts of regeneration, and Clearlove looking like he might catch Styes at the red buff. He is going to be spotted. Let's see if he does get the Agony's Embrace. He does throw down the Deathfire Grasp. Hate Spikes going out. Styes flashes over the wall. The red buff is actually ticking away, but he burns a red elixir to stay alive. Very clever play out of Styes in order to survive, but with Styes on the recall, this means Edward Gaming can freely siege this turret. The culling being used perpendicularly to the minion wave. That's actually lateral movement, lateral thinking out of Name. I'd like to see him play Vel'Koz and see what he can come up with those angles. But this tier 2 turret is going to go down. Name 5-1-5, absolutely dominating on Lucian right now. Whereas Styes, that's the second time he's got caught. Currently at 2-3-0. Yes, he does do enormous amounts of damage on Vayne if he can stay alive in team fights long enough. But as we've seen, this assassin comp, this constant assassin picks out of Edward Gaming are actually working rather well if they can manage to land it. First, Clearlove did take Kha'Zix in game number 1, and it didn't work out too well because he did get denied by an early invade from LGD. But now that he's had time to farm out enormous amounts of damage with Evelynn, he's really showing us how to play that AP Evelynn. And it's something that's working really, really well for Edward Gaming. They have solid control over the map. There needs to be wards everywhere for LGD, and even if there are wards on the map, there's absolutely nothing to guarantee that Clearlove on Evelynn isn't just stealth waiting around the corner. So that's a very large gold sink to deal with Clearlove. And he's really doing just a great job, currently at 5-1-7, building towards what appears to be an Abyssal Scepter once he completes his next major item buy, as he does have a Blasting Rod and an unfinished Haunting Guise. And oh, poor Quan, leaping over the wall to try to take his wolf camp, is not even going to be permitted that one breath of fresh air, that one minion camp to slowly increase his gold difference between he and Clearlove. is just going to casually recall on Kha'Zix, and that's such a sad feeling as a jungler when you're behind and the enemy team is potent enough to also clear your jungle, recall, pick up items, and then come back. That's complete map control and total denial of any counterplay from LGD. What this unfortunately means is that LGD is going to have to wait for Edward Gaming to force the engages. That means all of the team fights for Edward Gaming are going to be in their favor, as they will be the ones to decide when to initiate, who can we catch out of position, what objective can we take off of this. And that's really bad for LGD, as they do have Quan on Kha'Zix, an assassin. He really benefits the most from catching someone out of position, and if he's stuck just waiting inside of his base, that's not a very effective jungler. Now that we have you and Name sieging up this mid turret without taking too much damage, this could be Edward Gaming saying it's time to fight, it's time to go, as Name does enormous amounts of damage, adding an infinity edge to his repertoire. Is going to really chunk through that turret with those double tap passives so very, very quickly. Holy cow, Rina does enormous amounts of damage with his completed Void Staff. That was a little bit unexpected. Name looking like he might take it down. Woo, narrowly escapes from the entangling roots. Name does have the culling does not have the culling available. He flashes and gets a double tap, shutting down Clearlove. With Clearlove dead, this could be what Edward Gaming needs to try to force it. Mega Inferno Bomb being used. It throws out a lot of AoE. That now Star engaging onto Koro. Koro throws down his Dragon's Descent over an entangling roots. He turns around. You brings down the kill on PYL Styes, trying to kite this out. He's going to pick up one revenge kill on Clearlove. You chasing him away, but there is a Banshee's Veil onto Styes. It doesn't matter. You just auto attacks with that Lich Bane, turns around for a kill. The culling goes out from Name to try to shut down Rina. He doesn't manage to get it, but it doesn't matter, as all four members of Edward Gaming are going to take this inhibitor. Baron is going to respawn in 30 seconds, so we'll have to see if Edward Gaming decides to go for the Baron or if they want to end the game itself. It looks like they're going to go for the Nexus turrets. They're going to bring it dangerously low. Name looks like he might fall. He does go down. Rina getting the shutdown, and this is going to deny any sort of future push out of Edward Gaming, as there isn't a lot of health. The bouncing bomb for Rina narrowly misses Koro. Koro does take a hit. You looking like he might want to turn on to Rina, but Rina has a Banshee's Veil. He can absorb a lot of the damage that you would do with his picks. Sure, the Lulu does enormous amounts of damage with her auto attacks, especially with the Lich Bane passive, but she has to be careful, as Rina is enormously powerful. This is a 40-minute Ziggs with 3 major core items and a Banshee's Veil, so he can absorb a lot of damage and dish out just as much. So very, very confident play from Rina. Very solid. His single bouncing bomb onto Name at the Nexus turrets is what is allowing LGD to stay in this game right now. They are 12,000 gold behind, but with Name dead for another 10 seconds, if LGD try to force a fight at Baron, I think it would go in their favor, as it would be a 5v4. And now that FZZF has recalled, LGD could take this Baron and possibly even try to turn the game. Despite being behind, whoa, you gets caught in an entangling root. Styes turns it around and just does enormous amounts of damage. That is a very terrifying late game Vayne, and Quan on Kha'Zix chunking through the health bar of his opponent's Clearlove, just waiting to come in from behind with that Agony's Embrace. I think he is going to be spotted by LGD, but he doesn't make it in time, and LGD secure the Baron. And now that Name has respawned, Styes trying to catch Clearlove. He throws down Talisman of the Ascension to survive. Koro gets caught out of position. He's going in 1v3. He is almost certainly going to fall. He actually picks up a kill on Quan for revenge, but he goes down. Styes caught out of position, falls. Mega Inferno Bomb goes down. Name engaging onto Stars. He's using that double tap passive very effectively to chunk down Stars' health, but he just can't quite get it. Clearlove waiting for the right moment to engage on the remaining members of LGD. FZZF going pretty deep. Name coming around from behind, gets caught in an entangling root, so he's not going to be able to chase Lai, forced to flash away. And I am referring to Lai and Star as the same person. According to the Leaguepedia wiki, LGD's top laner on Mundo this game is Star, but his username appears to be Lai, so I will clarify this once the game is over, and it will not happen in any future broadcasts. But for the time being, I am going to interchangeably refer to him as Star and Lai. I'll clear that up next time as soon as I get a chance. The culling being thrown down from Name just for style points, I think, as he did take that bottom inhibitor turret, which is going to put Edward Gaming at 9 turrets to 3. There are 2 turrets left on the entire map for LGD. That's going to be their last inhibitor turret in the top lane and a single Nexus turret. So if Edward Gaming wins a team fight favorably, that is, wins a team fight with Name still alive and you maybe even still alive, they're going to be in a really solid position to end the game. It's 43 minutes in. Death timers are getting very, very long, which means that LGD are going to be in a very dire spot if they lose this next team fight. And especially now that the Baron is on Edward Gaming, we cannot see it because there is a weird graphical bug. We can see Clearlove with what appears to be 6 red buffs and 1 Baron, and 3 Baron buffs on LGD. It's really kind of tough to keep track of who has which buff, so I'm going to refer to the champion portraits themselves to keep an eye on. Yes, Baron is actually not on Clearlove. Unfortunately, he is going to be the only one without it for Edward Gaming. And whoa, Clearlove not even going for the Abyssal Scepter, going for a Rabadon's Death Cap. He is going for pure nuke Evelynn. If he can catch someone out with Agony's Embrace, he can just chunk them down with Deathfire Grasp, Hate Spike combination, and do enormous amounts of damage. They did just bring up his champion card. I didn't quite catch how much ability power he had, but I'm certain it is an enormous number. And now that Edward Gaming is grouping up in the mid lane, they want to try to take that freshly respawned inhibitor, and Name dashing forward, popping Quan's Banshee's Veil. This means that he could go down rather quickly. There is a Blade of the Ruined King available on Koro, who can just dive in, throw down a bit of slow, and allow the rest of his team to catch up. Koro, surprisingly tanky with his completed Spirit Visage and Thornmail, can soak quite a bit, especially in Dragon's form. I don't think he should have that much trouble trading with LGD. We can see he's soaking up just a bit here and there. And finally, Edward Gaming find their way into the inhibitor. They're going to chunk it down very quickly. This is a very, very painful Lucian, not even going for the Banshee's Veil, picking up a Spirit Visage to complement his Bloodthirster. Very interesting, not something you normally see on an AD carry. It means that he is going to rely entirely on his skill and mechanics to not die. Clearlove looking like he's waiting for the flank. There is a pink dropped behind LGD, so they do know that Clearlove could come in from behind. The culling being burned, try to bring down the health for LGD, but they don't have that much trouble just soaking that up, as it was split over all of the members of LGD, and there's a lot of damage that they can absorb as it is 45 minutes into the game. The trading continues back and forth. Clearlove hasn't moved an inch. He's just waiting just outside of that ward vision for the perfect opportunity. Koro taking quite a bit low, not regenerating quite as much as I would like to see on that Shyvana. Now that the Baron buff has fallen off, he needs to go into the jungle, regenerate himself up to a little bit of health, and the siege will then continue for Edward Gaming. But a good defense out of LGD. Everything was on the line right there in this game, but they were able to stay alive long enough and stall it out for that Baron buff to fall off, and then afterwards apply enough poke to force Edward Gaming to back away. And suddenly LGD looking like they could be going on the offensive. Clearlove coming in from the side. Koro looking like he might want to engage. Let's see if the culling does go down. It is catching Lai out of position. Lai is just getting shredded. A little bit of lag on the tournament server as Clearlove takes a lot of damage. Mega Inferno Bomb doesn't secure a kill. This is unfortunately not what LGD wants, as Quan forced to back away from the side. Name going toe-to-toe with Styes, trading a lot of auto attacks, but now that the rest of Edward Gaming has showed up, Styes is going to fall, and EDG not going to chase Rina from the side. They are going to go straight for the end of the game. Quan trying to go man mode onto you, but you just shields and absorbs that isolated bonus damage. FZZF single-handedly chasing Rina away, and this is not looking too well for LGD as Edward Gaming move onto the Nexus, and they are going to end the game. Edward Gaming getting a revenge win against LGD, the culling for style points from Name, and Edward Gaming securing the win. Solid play out of Edward Gaming. So very, very patient with that siege. And I don't know if that recall at the very end when they backed out away from the inhibitor was actually a specific purposeful play, something that they had in mind from the beginning, get chunked down and then engage on the rest of LGD. But it worked out fantastically as they were able to secure game number 2 against LGD. That does mean that this series is closing out in 1-1. So game number 1 going to LGD, game 2 going to Edward Gaming, meaning that the total number of points going to each teams is 1 and 1. So solid play between these two teams. Congratulations, Edward Gaming. Very, very fun. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Once again, my name is Caster Sata. I was joined by Souldra earlier on. He did leave halfway through the broadcast, which is why I have been talking for the past 30 minutes by myself. But if you have any comments, feel free to drop them below the video. I am going to continue doing these LPL casts. Please leave any comments, any concerns, and if you have any input, shoot me a tweet at CasterSata. And I'm honestly still talking. This video ended like 30 minutes, like 20 seconds ago. 30 seconds ago, 3-4 minutes ago. I have no idea. I'm just going to stop talking now. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you in the next game.